Good morning, Napa Valley. I'm Lee W. Miller.
I'm Desi Capaz.
Music.
Famous drum solo.
Well, not really solo, but yeah, emphasis. We are the Lee and Desi show on KVON here every Monday at 11 a.m., and we're glad that you're here with us today. We've got a great show lined up for you. We want to start by thanking our sponsors, AmeriFirst Financial. That's the mortgage company that Martine Yatako is the branch manager for, and you can reach Martine at 707-819-0854. Thank you, AmeriFirst Financial. And also our sponsor, Signet Reverse Mortgage with Tom McDonald, reverse mortgage consultant, and you can always reach Tom at 707-265-6385. And what we like to do to start out the show is what we did over the weekend, and of course, that was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was. How was your Thanksgiving, first of all?
It was great.
Yeah?
It was wonderful.
Spend it with some family?
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah?
My son, the drummer on that introduction, is enjoying 4 weeks in Australia with his lovely bride. So
nice.
He was not there.
That's going to be fun.
But it was a good Thanksgiving with the grandkids. And then, of course, we went to the Christmas parade downtown Napa on Saturday. So
that's always fun. That's always a good way to kick off the season.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I just had a lot of turkey. I'm still eating turkey.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of Thanksgiving. You know, I mean for like a week after is just leftovers, and I make sandwiches and gravy on top. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I can eat them all. I can eat it all day long.
Yeah. Leanne made a big pot of turkey noodle soup, and it's perfect to eat on Sunday when it was raining and all that good stuff.
That's true. We actually, my wife did the same thing. She made some turkey soup there for yesterday because of the rains.
Cool.
But now the skies have opened and beautiful weather, and we're back to sunshine.
So a couple of events that we want to talk about. Heritage Sotheby's International Realty. They are the brokerage that Desi and I are a part of. That's where we hang our license. We're proud to be a part of that organization. 70 years. 70 years they've been in business here in Napa, and we're celebrating this Thursday. And if you're listening to this, that means you are invited to our 70-year anniversary Thursday from 4 to 7 at 1435 First Street. And maybe an easier way to remember where that is, it's in the courtyard right behind a no tree. So
that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. And guess what? It's not going to rain either. That's
great
news. And another event coming up on the 15th of December, Napa Business Advantage, a business referral group, is having our holiday networking mixer at Kitchen Collective on the 15th of December, also from 4 to 7. And so if you know of any businesses that are looking to grow their business with a great business referral network, come check us out, be our guest, and enjoy some good wine and build your own pizza on the 15th at Kitchen Collective. So,
yeah, Kitchen Collective. That's a fun place to go.
Yeah.
Too bad, I guess I won't be able to be invited to that, I guess. I don't.
Well, you can come to the mixer, but our rule is that we only have one representative from each industry, and realtor is taken.
Who is that?
That would be moi. You didn't know I was bilingual, did you? Moi.
No, didn't know.
So we've got some great guests today. Brandon Hagler is with us, and he's going to be talking to us about 3D photography, and we'll be having him join us in just a second. But also Britt Esser is here from JCP, and I think the best way to do this, because they do natural hazard disclosures, and I think probably the best way to interview Britt in the second half is we'll just pretend we know nothing at all.
Sure.
And because most of our listeners, if you're not in the industry, you wouldn't know anything. And so we'll ask Britt what's the importance of it and have him share some stories about that, because it is a critical component of every real estate transaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do. We'll talk to him in the second half. But I lost myself there.
You're right in front of me, Desi.
I know. My headphones went out, and I thought it's like, oh my God.
You weren't time traveling. You didn't get lost quite like that, but yeah.
No, it'll be good. It'll be good. We look forward to interviewing Britt.
Yeah. But first up, let's welcome Brandon Hagler.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, thanks for coming in the studio.
Thanks for having me. What a great platform.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun, and real estate, talking real estate is what we do, and we like to do. And an integral part of real estate is taking professional photos and 3D imagery, which many of our listeners may not know about, that they can do as part of selling their home.
And as a precursor, our office, Heritage Sotheby's, mandates that every listing be the photographer has to be a professional photographer. And, man, it's one of my pet peeves when I go on to MLS as a professional and I see the wanky, ridiculous cell phone photography and somebody that calls themselves a professional and they're not using a professional photographer to get the maximum representation of a property. But then you take it a step further. You're also a professional photographer, but what we're going to talk about today is the 3D imagery, and that's a pretty cool technology. One that we might question, why are you talking about something so cool and so visual on radio? Well, that's just because
that's easy. I've got a face for radio. That's what my wife always says. So, this is a no-brainer to get on the radio.
Right. Okay. Your wife is a lovely woman.
She is great. Yes.
She is.
So tell us a little bit about this technology and how you got started.
Excellent. Yeah. So I've been doing this for about a year and a half. I started a company called Omnia 3D Tours. You guys can check out the website, omnia3dtours.com.
And there's a link on our website right now, leeanddesi.com, so either one.
Excellent. Yeah. So what we saw is just kind of a need in the market to kind of appeal to, the newer generation of home buyers. And it's just a technology that has become essential, especially in the Napa real estate market, because a lot of the clientele for Napa is wealthy investors, a lot of whom are out of state. And this is the kind of technology where the photography is a virtual tour. It's 3D. It shows the whole schematics of the home, so people can just get on a link and see the home and go through it. It's like a 24-hour open house. People can go in and really get a good feel for the house. They can look up. They can see the crown molding. They can see everything about the house that they like. And a lot of my clients have gotten offers sight unseen from investors from around the world, just based on this virtual tour. So it's something that's been catching on. I've done over 250 homes in the Valley, and so we're pretty proficient here, and it's just been wonderful. The feedback has been great.
Well, it's what's amazing about the 3D imagery that I love is that folks that are out of town, in other states or in other countries, they can get online, look at the imagery, and literally not have to come here and see it physically. They can see it. And not only that, you can put on the 3D, well, what do you call them? The virtual
VR goggles?
Yeah, the VR goggles. That's it. And you can take literally a virtual tour of this home in another country, state, or wherever it is, and make a decision. You can actually make a decision based on that because it's really, it feels real.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite features about it as well. I use an iPad usually. That's just something that, almost everyone, can relate to, and it's just easy to get on. Not everyone has access to VR goggles, but that is another feature that it has as well. One thing that we're seeing a lot of is, you guys know the Napa Valley. It's long, 30 miles plus. And you can't see every home in a day. I mean, if you're, representing buyers, it's probably easier to just go to a Starbucks and show a bunch of virtual tours and say, hey, these are a list of homes I've put together that's in your price range. Let's go through them. If you show a lot of interest in 2 or 3 of them, then let's narrow it down to that, and let's go see that. So it's saving the buyer's agents a lot of time as well, just to have access to this.
Well, yeah, and like you say, to further qualify, you're saving the buyers the time also, because I can't tell you how many times from photos only, even professional photos, buyers have said, oh, this is definitely in the top 5, let's go there. And yet we're in the house for 30 seconds, and they're like, nope, it's not what it looked like. So sometimes professional photography makes it look even better.
Right.
But I would say that the 3D gives a more accurate representation.
Definitely more accurate. A lot of times real estate professionals try to accent or highlight, the pros of a house and kind of try to hide the other things. But, I mean, when people walk through a home, it's going to make you look bad if you've purposefully hidden some things about the home that may not be as attractive. And the virtual tour just shows everything, the good and the bad, and people can assess whether it's something that they want to move forward with. So you get a more qualified buyer when you're representing these people. Plus, they're happy that, you're being honest and upfront and transparent in the way that you do business. It really makes you look good as a real estate professional using that.
Well, there's one thing I wanted to talk to Kelly, our, vice president there at Heritage Sotheby's, is that we should keep and hold, like VR goggles inside the conference rooms when we do bring in buyers, sit them down, because we do have, right now we have pictures. We have, our big LED screen that we can show them pictures, and those are nice. But to sit them there and go, put these goggles on, take a look at this house now, and we're going to take a little virtual tour.
Yeah,
so
that's really cool.
Yeah, that's something that I would always want. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk to Kelly about.
We're seeing a lot of offices now using the touchscreen LED TVs. So these virtual tours are cool too, because they can go up and actually touch on a 40-inch screen or something. Yeah. So
is there any area of the house that you can't see in these tours? I mean, not obviously in the cabinets or in the closets, but the full 360 spherical view, even you can look up at the ceiling, correct, and look right down at the floor, and then do a 360 pirouette.
Yeah, I always talk to the agents beforehand and make sure, hey, let's close the doors to the rooms or closets or whatever that you don't want to see. A lot of these homes are staged, and they've, kind of thrown a bunch of junk into a room or something. It's like, okay, we don't want to show that. So I always work closely with the agents as well as the homeowners or the renters who are in there. I'm always respectful of their space as well, and want to make sure that what's shown is everything that they're comfortable showing as well. So, yeah, it is a balance. You want to show as much as you can, but you also, consider what is good to show based on what the clients prefer.
I think the key is that it provides a much more accurate representation of the flow of the floor plan as opposed to just the still photography, because you can see the living room in a photographer shot and the dining room and the kitchen, but you don't necessarily get a sense for off of which room the next one is. And so you can literally walk through with clicks on the mouse.
Right. Yeah, that's something important too. Is you see we have a dollhouse feature with this technology, so you can actually see the schematics of the home, the whole floor plan, and that's been a great selling feature as well. Because you see the flow of the home, but you also kind of see, how best when you go in to decorate the home. What's it going to be like to actually live in the home. So. That's something that really helps it sell, especially for clients that are out of town. So, a lot of sight unseen just based on that. Another thing with these fires, what we've seen from our clients that have lost homes, unfortunately, sometimes the blueprints they've had in the garage, and that burned up as well. So the virtual tours that I've done, I've been able to provide the clients with a blueprint schematic of the home that they can then use with the insurance companies, just kind of streamlines the process of getting back on their feet. So that's been a huge help to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to make mention of, is that you mentioned in our meeting that day that if you lost the blueprints of your home, this is something that you can possibly retain by using the 3D imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only the blueprints, but what a perfect representation of all of your personal effects that will help in terms of the insurance company determining a value for all those things as well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
it's also worth noting that you do this exclusively for Heritage Sotheby's. That's one of the things that kind of sets us apart. But it's not limited to real estate, right?
Right. So yeah, I've worked over a year with Heritage Sotheby's, so that's been my main client. But I have another camera as well that I'm going out and providing this service for other agents throughout the valley as well. So I've also got into property management companies. This has been great, especially for just liability. Before people come into a vacation rental, or just as renters, just to have this virtual tour, so you can see all the nooks and crannies of the home before people get in there. And if there's any dispute, they do some damage to the property, and they say, no, that was already there, we didn't do that. You can show the virtual tour. So that's been really big for clients in the property management field.
Yeah,
as well.
I could see that happening. That's in the rental market, it could be more valuable in the rental market. Because technically you're not buying the home. You just want something. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example, is that I know that when we rented our first home here in Napa, we were in Florida at the time. On vacation, and we were in the middle of a lease at our previous rental. We wanted to leave because we wanted a one-level home. So we were kind of looking already, but something came up in Florida, and we needed to jump on it real quick. But one of the things was, we did. I called up the agent real quick. It was from Crown. I called them up, said, "Hey, listen, we're in Florida, but we really want this place. We really like this place. We see the pictures. When we get down there to Napa in a couple of days, could you at least hold it for us so we can see it?" Sure, no problem. He was nice enough to do that. But if you have this 3D imagery, I could have just said, "You know what? I made my mind up. I like it. I'll take it right now. I'm sending the check right now."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have to go down, wait a couple of days to see it physically. I mean, I saw pictures.
Right.
But the imagery would have been really awesome for that.
Just makes things really easy, yeah.
Right.
So, one thing I focus on as well is I kind of want to be an extension of the quality of service that these agents provide. So understanding the local market, I can get into a home, make people feel at ease, and I really want to highlight, the fact that these agents are using this technology, thinking outside the box. So I always highlight that with the homeowners when I get into a home, and just make them feel, just kind of reinforce that foundation that they have with the agent, and say, "Isn't it cool that your agent is using this and really, thinking outside the box? You have a really good agent, So I always try to reinforce that trust, that the clients have with the agents. And then I always highlight on my website as well, I show the virtual tour, but I also categorize the homes based on price points and agents. So anybody looking for a home in Napa Valley can get onto my website, omnia3dtours.com, and they can look for a home based on price range. We've qualified for this range of house. Let's get on and see the virtual tours for these homes. And then they can see who's listing, who the listing agent is. And then I have hyperlinks to that agent's, professional website. So they can actually go on and see all of that agent's respective listings, whether they have a virtual tour for those listings or not. So I really want to highlight, the local real estate professionals and kind of be an extension of their marketing as well. So that's probably something that sets me apart.
Yeah. No, I could see that being a nice tool to have, to refer people to,
the point you made when you were looking at a property from Tampa, I would imagine at a 1% vacancy rate in Napa, the Crown Property Management agent probably wouldn't hold that for you today.
Right.
So you were fortunate that maybe the rental market was not quite as tight last time, but that's a good reason,
Right.
a good application for this, so that you wouldn't have to.
Exactly. Well, that was my point.
Yeah.
And, something to that effect that, you're out of town and, you see something. And so that's a useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something that, both property management, real estate related in general could use. Now, are there other, going back, are there other applications that this can be used for? Like, for example, other than real estate and property management and blueprints of any sort,
Sure.
Can we?
Absolutely, yeah. I've actually shot for some local hotels as well. So
Okay.
if they want to, highlight their honeymoon suite or their presidential suite or something, or their lobby, their bar, those are presentations that I put together as well with the virtual tour. So, and wineries especially as well. You have tasting rooms that are just extravagant and amazing and beautiful. And so that's something that we've been able to use the virtual tour as well, especially to see those 360 views, of the vineyards. That's huge for that industry.
That could be very, very valuable for a winery of that nature.
I could see every winery doing it for their tasting room and the grounds.
Mm-hmm.
I can see every bed and breakfast using this. I can see the Archer Hotel wanting to use this. Virtually any new business that's opening up, you just give yourself that extra.
Yeah,
advantage.
Weddings. There's a lot of weddings that take place out here, and it would be cool for, a family from Michigan who wants to get married out in the Napa Valley to take a virtual tour of where their reception hall will be. So, yeah, there's a lot of applications that can be used for this. So,
let's dip into like the details of the imagery. You can not only just walk through or see it with your goggles, but there's actually little tabs everywhere that you can press or look at, and it'll open up and tell you the description of the area and what you're seeing. And
yes, yeah. So if an agent really thinks that something is very unique about the house, they have a cool kind of hidden wine cellar or something, then I'll do a tag that talks about it. If the covers are made from rich mahogany, it's something that they want to accentuate. Then I'll do a tab, and people can click on that and actually get the details about that specific thing. So anything that really sets the house apart. You might not be able to see it on first glance, but if you want people to, kind of be directed towards it, we do that tag, and people can see it. So, really
it's important because, again, we take it back to the fact that we're going to either rent a house or buy a house, and we're looking at this, and we're trying to make a decision based on it. So we're looking at a kitchen countertop, and we're going, it looks like, in the picture you're like, it looks like granite. I'm not sure. Maybe it's quartz. I'm not sure. Well, now there you go.
Yeah.
In this tour, you get a description of it.
Yeah.
Maybe even.
Absolutely.
Where it came from, or the price tag on it, or something. A little history, right?
So many historical buildings here as well. So,
exactly.
I can see that being a huge function for these older homes that have a history, and you can really kind of give a story, so people are walking through the house, just getting an idea of the rich history of these buildings. So,
and that's an idea too. Is like, to put somewhat of a personality to the house, or give it some type of warmth for the next family that is moving in. This is where my kid first took a walk, now he's 20 years old, but whatever, now, but this is where he first took his steps or something. Make it
personalizes the experiences a bit, and it also kind of sets the stage for, I'm going to build memories in this home.
Exactly.
And this will be my story now, and I'm incorporating, this rich history.
Yes.
So you're really, with any sales, but with real estate especially, it's an emotional buy. And you want to kind of cast vision of, this is going to be your future. This is the lifestyle you're going to have here in Napa. But this is the setting of where your family's going to grow and have that happiness. So, yeah.
Oh, good. It's a good tool. I'm sure you've had gotten into a lot of brokerages in town. Kind of gave you your story behind it. I think it's something that's going to take off, and it already has taken off. It's not what we thought. There was one. Remember the QR codes? Yeah. That was something talked about in the real estate business years, and they thought that was going to just take off. It really didn't. But something like this will definitely be bigger. Yeah. And grow. Yeah, so what do you see the future
evolving as well? So I mean, right now you can access this virtual tour on a desktop. You can use the arrow keys to kind of walk through the house and everything. And that's something that any generation right now can use. Pretty much everyone's savvy with that. One thing that I do as well for people that aren't as tech savvy is I do a highlight reel. On the house as well. So rather than go through the house by clicking or using the arrow keys, people can actually just hit a play button at the bottom of the virtual tour.
Is that called the Lee button?
The Lee button. Right. So
the Lee button.
Yeah, and it just plays.
That has a ring to it.
I think you're going somewhere with this. You'll be something someday with that. Yeah, trademark that. But. Yeah, it's just something that anybody can use based on their level of technical prowess, and they can just hit that play button. And what I've done is I put together a highlight reel based on the key aspects of the house that people will want to see, and it makes it easy for everyone. So, but the future, I think, is the millennial generation starts getting into home buying. I think it'll hit Napa just based on the price and kind of the consumer base here will probably take a little bit longer, but having those VR goggles and it's just really appealing to this next upcoming generation of home buyers. So I think it's going there. Who knows in the future? I think they're adapting this technology. It's so applicable to where technology is going that who knows, maybe they'll have holograms, a holodeck like in Star Trek.
That's what I'm thinking.
Isn't
that incredible that if you could have a hologram just right in front of you and be able to just kind of peer around the house, just looking at this hologram.
And you wouldn't even be stubbing your toe on any furniture because you'd be walking
right
through
right
it.
There. Don't step on Legos. Kids' toys.
Everything's
good.
a hologram except the Legos. Just a mess.
Those are real. Yeah. It has to have a real sense to it.
There you go. Yeah. Well, real quick, Brandon, and we're running out of time, but what does the price of something like this look like?
So it's broken down into square footage. So, a home up to 1,000 square feet, I just start at 200, and then up to 2,000 feet, 300. And then so on and so forth. But I also do still shots. I can do that from the Matterport technology as well. Okay. And I add that on for an extra $100. So I mean, you can do a package, for fairly cheap, based on the level of quality you're getting with the marketing tools that I offer. So, and I also do drone shots as well, stills and aerial footage, video. So.
Right, yeah, it's just not imagery; it's drones, regular photography.
Yep.
And
try to be a one-stop shop
as
much as possible. So.
That's correct.
So get on the website; you'll see the price breakdown. You can contact me. It's easy, Brandon at omnia3dtours.com. And check out the website, omnia3dtours.com. And that's OMNIA.
Okay. 3dtours.com. Yep. And we have that on our website at leeanddesi.com in the under the bulletin board tab. So just click on there and you'll see his website, and you'll just be able to click onto that. Thank you very much, Brandon, for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Love the platform. Happy anniversary to you and your lovely wife, Desi.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It has been 13 years, and it's been fun. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, so Brandon. All right, so we'll be right back after this break with Britt at JCP Disclosures, right?
Yes.
It's for man, I am losing it. What disclosure are we talking? Natural hazard. I'm losing it today. Okay, we'll be back after this break. Thanks, guys.
Welcome back to the Lee and Desi Show. Happy to have you with us today. And as we always do, we bring back the show with our This Day in History factoid. Interestingly enough, on this day in history in 1895, Alfred Nobel signed his last will, which called for his estate and all the fortune that he had made as the inventor of dynamite to be used for creating awards for those contributed to the benefit of mankind. A little bit of irony there that the Nobel Peace Prize, of which is one of the 5, there's also an award for physics, chemistry, medicine, and literature. But the guy made all his money having invented dynamite, and then he turns around and gives a Peace Prize every year. So I just found that pretty interesting.
So, see, it's the yin and the yang.
Yeah. And also, if that's not enough, today is Bill Nye's, Jimi Hendrix, and Bruce Lee's birthday.
Hey, I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. I love Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
You know, not only was he a tough guy, he was a philosopher.
Right.
So, gotta love him.
Yeah. And our real estate trivia.
I was just going to say.
Did you know that red doors? You know, my wife is one. She goes, "I want a house with a red door. That would be so nice." Okay, well, in Scotland, red doors are a sign that the owners have paid their mortgage off in full. So the whole red door thing started in Scotland as a sign of, suckers, we paid off our mortgage. Probably not quite with that attitude, but that's how that started. And I just found that as an interesting little bit of real estate trivia.
It is.
And you, as a listener, can be entered into a drawing for a bottle of wine donated by Vintners Collective. If you email us at leeanddesi@gmail.com and just mention something about red doors, you will be entered into that drawing. And Charlie was the winner for last week, so we've gotten in touch with Charlie.
Yes.
And made arrangements for him to pick up his bottle of wine donated by Vintners Collective. So,
well, you know, it's always fun to hear a little bit about real estate trivia and red doors. Now, I can probably never have a red door on my house.
Just it would clash.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it would clash. I would be the the American flag house. That's what you would call me, because I have a navy blue house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm probably the only one in Napa
with white trim.
With white trim, yeah. So
I do know.
I went for it.
I do know of a house that is literally red, white, and blue. It might be coming on the market. Talk to the guy about selling it. But,
there is another house.
There is another house.
Okay, that shares the same taste as I do, because I know most people are like, "Oh, Des, that's nice." Okay,
right.
Let me see what you done in the inside first.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we have a special guest.
Britt Esser's joining us now.
Yes,
and you're listening to the Lee and Desi radio show. Britt, welcome to the studio.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, as we said at the beginning of the show, for the benefit of our listeners, we are going to pretend that we know nothing at all about what you do. But as real estate professionals ourselves, we do know what you do, and we know the value of the natural hazard disclosures. But why don't you tell the listeners, in layman's terms, what that is?
Well, I appreciate the honest disclosure right out of the gates.
Yeah,
that you
that's
don't
a
know
disclosure
anything
in and of itself, isn't it?
So, be careful in hiring Lee now, since you don't know too much about it. I'm just kidding. I'm not
he's not. He's not unique. Trust me, and that is why my role exists. But I appreciate you guys having me today. And I think the best way that I could start this off with is everyone at some point has been in front of a disclosure report at some point if they were a buyer or seller. Mm-hmm. They probably don't remember it. Mm-hmm. It was one of, 100 things they were asked to.
Sure.
Right.
Just look this over and sign it real quick. We had a long afternoon ahead of us. And yet it is by far one of the most important steps on both the buyer and seller side. And I chose to move into this industry because I was very much interested in the information that's out there, with my background being in the web and internet marketing and just how you can find really good content about stuff. I was sort of plucked out of that and into this world of when people are going to buy a house, what should they know? Mm-hmm. And how are they going to find that information? Who's responsible for finding that information and presenting it to them? Mm-hmm. My company, JCP, is the oldest. We started in 76, so over 40 years. We are I would say kind of a stable company in that with our parent company of First American Financial being, 1898 when they started, we got pretty good stable roots. But the product itself that JCP provides is very simple. It's a straightforward report that goes through the 6 most important fundamental parts of a disclosure report that seller must provide the buyer.
6 components being natural hazard related.
Natural hazard, yeah. So you've got flood, you've got potential dam failure, you've got very high fire hazard, wild land, substantial forest area, earthquake, the landslide, and the liquefaction. Mm-hmm. And so when I get asked, is my property going to be in all of those? Is it possible to be in none of them? We're in California. Yeah. There's a reason this exists.
Yeah.
California is the most beautiful, wonderful place for us all to live, but it is a total, complicated, exciting place when it comes to what could go wrong.
Kind of the melting pot of natural hazards.
Yeah, a lot of stretch marks around here.
Good analogy. I mean, it seems like since I started with the company, I began, with we're just coming into flood, and now suddenly something very exciting happens in Sonoma and Napa. So now I'm getting a lot of questions about the fire stuff. Next quarter it's going to be locusts. I'm sure.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I mean, we are always on
natural hazards of biblical proportions.
Right.
Oh wow, yeah, no doubt.
It seems like I just can't get a break here. But yeah, so when you're starting the process of let's say selling your home, your agent is required to get that report to the buyer, and the beauty of my industry is you can look at it anytime you want. You can order one and preview it and find out everything you want to know.
Whether you're selling your home or not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you should be asking for that as the buyer as early as possible. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that we run into, and this is where I definitely get some interesting calls, it's the 0 hour, Friday at 4:45 and escrow's closing. Uh-oh, we just got something from the lender. Looks like this thing might be in a flood zone. So we want to make sure that when people are thinking about what could go wrong, we're not on that list. And so the earlier that you take a look at a disclosure report, you're going to see the ins and the outs. They make it super easy with our report. If you are in a flood zone, great. You found out early. Yeah. You're going to find out that you're going to need some flood insurance. But the benefit of working with my company, you also get the flood certificate. And we'd give that free. We're the only company that's doing that. And so I guess that'll kind of lead into, you guys asked me to give a very easy example. If you were, let's say, ordering a report and the buyer gets that report a little bit late in the process, and it does pop up on the lender's radar that this isn't a flood zone, you're going to be now required to get some pretty costly flood insurance. Mm-hmm. But if you ordered a report from us and we are then able to see that by calling up our dedicated geology department, they're going to pull maps for city, county, and state. Mm-hmm. They're going to obviously look at the flood certificate, and they're going to show that because we use parcel-level data, you only have a small swath of your property that's actually in the flood zone. Mm-hmm. The structure isn't.
Right.
Send that back to the lender.
Yeah.
You're off and running.
Yeah.
You just saved a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many deals just die on the vine?
Right.
You know, so we want to make sure that those are the kind of experiences that no one has to go through. It's definitely in the seller's best interest to get it as early as possible. Mm-hmm. Buyers can also say, I have a particular, way I like to look at these reports. I'm going to go with.
Well, and that's why it's important to get the disclosures, all disclosures out from the seller in a matter of days from signing the contract. It's very important that the seller does that, and natural hazard is part of that. I'm one of those rare agents. Well, I'm not saying rare agents, but I know a lot of them do. But I like to read it. I look it over, and I look for the check marks. And I make sure they're all no's. but I want to see where this property lies, and it's important to me and my client, and I want to relay that message as early as I can and say, hey, guess what? You're a quarter of a mile away from a major fault line, or you're lying in a flooded zone. But I just purchased in June in Browns Valley. I knew because I talked to the neighbors, but I saw the report, and I'm very close to that fault line, and but it didn't sway my decision, but it did get me to acquire earthquake insurance. So, those are important things to know, and the client should know. Is like, hey, listen, you are very close. Maybe they can make that decision. It won't be required. Earthquake wouldn't be required. Flood would.
Mm-hmm.
From a lender's perspective.
Yeah, you got it.
But, it made my decision easier. That's for sure.
So I said that I was going to play dumb like I know nothing at all. And usually that's pretty easy for me to do, play dumb. But I want to point out this is not an optional report. This is mandated by the state of California.
Yeah. It's a mandated report for the state of California from an unregulated industry. That's the best part about it.
Yeah.
You guys, you have to have a license to do what you do. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Title company, all these other industries are regulated, and you have to have a license to
certain
do what you do.
Educational requirements and all of that.
And transact.
Yeah, for us, it's the Wild West. One of the things that terrifies me is when you hear a company, a reputable realtor will say, I just get the one that's cheapest because I don't want all the paperwork that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And then you think to yourself, oh my gosh, what's missing? What's not covered? What is going to go wrong? Not today or tomorrow, but a month from now when the buyer goes, this house is all over the place.
Yeah.
So we tend to overshoot when it comes to making sure that you have all the information. We've also been investing heavily in making sure that the data that we're bringing in is verified, which can be expensive, but it's to you as realtor's best interest, certainly the buyer's and seller's best interest. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a great sleep aid at night.
Sure.
If you really want to fall asleep in, between 5 to 10 minutes, just open your disclosure report.
Well,
I thought you were going to the positive that you can sleep well knowing, but you were talking about the boringness aspect.
It's just like we just had a gentleman in the VR Matterport world, and I was like, yeah, we have a new concept. It's called paper.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Well, I know you do PDFs too.
Yeah.
So, hey, I got a question for you. So, as you know, last year we had more rain than has ever been recorded, or really, really close.
I moved in the middle of it.
In the middle of all those rains. So, Lake Park, for example. Are you familiar with the Lake Park neighborhood?
Okay.
Just north of Pueblo and Sosco.
Okay.
To the east. So that area is they call it Lake Park for a reason. There's a huge park there that's sunken down and in the flood areas. In times of flooding, that will flood. So virtually every home in that neighborhood requires flood insurance.
Yep.
However, we as a community spent, I don't know, what was it, $25 million for the flood project, and it worked, and the bypass worked, and we didn't even have to close the gates, and nothing flooded, and all this is wonderful. Now, how long does it take to adjust the flood zone areas? Because what might have shown on a JCP natural hazard disclosure 5 years ago should be different today, unless those people, whoever they are, that are updating that information are delinquent in getting those updated. Can you talk about that?
Certainly. Yeah, I get this question a lot, and if it's not the flood map, it's the earthquake map, and
the earthquake map, we discovered a whole bunch of new faults 3 years ago.
It looks like spider webs underneath the ground. Yeah. So with the flood question, and I did just recently get the flood question for Napa Valley, and I've done as much research as the job can possibly have you go down some rabbit holes. What we don't like to do is give previews until it is officially released by the county, which really they are. We always say we go as deep as we can, which would be getting down to a city level of that information. But the county of Napa is going to update their maps generally every 5 to 7 years. Now, the reports that we actually provide to you, our rule of thumb would be 6 months. Now, that's not to say that, like, you buy a report in November, it's going to be useless in May. You just have to recognize that certain things may change, but we are only going to go after what is absolutely verified, because you guys are trusting that it will stand up as far as that information.
That seems like a little bit of a discrepancy, a 6-month time frame on the report, but the county doesn't update the general information for 5 to 7 years.
We're collecting the data. We're not actually doing the investigation. But that is another one of the benefits of working with us, is because we do have a full geology team. They are able to pull maps from anywhere in the state of California and see what's going on. So what I love to do is when I get the let's say, flood map question, I pull the maps for that area. And I can get down to the city level and then say, here's what we're currently hearing. And as far as our timeline, I would say look at 6 months from now as something that we would be comfortable starting to talk about it. But nothing is in our actual report that cannot be verified by state, county, and then in some cases city.
Okay. Because I live downtown, and I'm about 4 houses away from flood zone. But again, that was pre-$25 million flood bypass project, and I got to believe that that's just not an issue anymore. But the NHD is going to say something different.
And that's the other nice thing. Feel free to send me your address.
Okay.
I can send anyone a preview of their NHD report. We're one of those companies that says if it goes all the way to escrow, then please pay for your report. But the benefit of getting it early, not just that you don't have to pay for it to look at it, is that you can look at your own information and go, where do I stand in some of these important issues?
Right.
So.
You're listening to the Lee and Desi radio show. We have Britt Esser, excuse me.
Britt Eklund.
Britt Eklund. That's
You're
like
thinking of the model from the
model,
80s?
Yes.
I get that.
Sorry about that. Britt Esser from JCP talking about natural hazard disclosure reports. And how long does it take to get a report?
Ooh, another good question. Yeah, so we are actually a rather progressive, technologically minded company. So the beauty of owning disclosures.com is that it is by far the fastest way to get something.
Oh, okay.
Now, realtors, I always like to kid you guys about being about 4 to 5 years behind the curve. So my favorite accounts text me an address, and it usually just has address and then PDF only. So you'll get that report from me in about 30 to 45 minutes in a digital form.
Nice.
We are also mailing out hard copies, as we're sitting here in front of actual paper, overnight, so agents can be in front of their client.
Can we opt out so we don't kill all those trees?
You should. Every time I get an order that they want the hard copy, I do roll my eyes and say, if you have an iPad, our report is digital and hyperlinked. So there's 46 to 50 pages of information in the report. Why not just click on the page that you want to go over?
Right.
Especially if it says in, you want to look at that. If it's in a flood zone,
right.
Look at that one.
Right.
But everything can be signed digitally now. We live in the world of DocuSign. So let's all step into it and save a tree. And, it's nice to be able to have, buyer's agent, seller's agent, escrow officer. Anybody can go to disclosures.com and just put the order in and have it very, very quickly. Yes.
What a great URL.
That's the benefit of being around 40 years
Yeah.
is that when you start your company and I think JCP LGS was formed in 2007. They had LGS owned disclosures.com. I mean, what a nice little
somebody
pearl.
had the forethought
Yeah.
to snag that one. So customarily in Napa County, anyway, it's the seller that needs to pay for the report.
Correct.
And it's only about $100. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we are competitively priced, but we are the only one that would include the full NHT report, the environmental screening report, which goes an additional level, so that if you have any of those gas lines or something underground, we're going another level with that environmental screening report. And then, as I mentioned before, the only one that has a certified flood certificate. You're a good example of somebody who would want to see as much information about flood stuff.
Sure.
So, we want to protect everyone at a very affordable price.
Well, I learned something today that you're ready, willing, and able to give anybody that goes to disclosures.com a report on their property
Absolutely.
for no charge. It's only in the cases of a transaction where the seller would need
Right.
to pay for that.
Yeah, the idea there is if money exchanges hands, we are now in a contract together. So my feeling would be if you have a realtor, ask them, hey, can you put an order in? The public can order it. It's just it's going to ask you, who's your realtor? So you want to make sure
That's LEE and DESI. Those are your realtors.
Look at this. We're networking. Look at the referral industry just back and forth. Yeah, but we definitely want people to feel comfortable jumping in there and knowing more about the whole process. And
Brett,
I think this helps.
let me ask you a question though. What during the incident with in San Bruno, the fire, the gas pipe that blew up, does your company give an option to know where the gas pipe, lines are?
Absolutely. Yeah, as I'm holding
Page 27.
Well, page 2. Yeah. So one of the things that as you're looking at the report, we try and make it, dare I say, sexy in the geology world.
Wow, that's not saying much.
Right. Yeah. as you look at the map, you are going to see just how close you are to any gas pipelines.
Okay.
But absolutely put a spotlight on it. I mean, that was a huge event, and it really did push the state to have legislation in place to protect buyers. Because nobody had any clue and certainly weren't prepared for it. And I think that there's a certain importance to making sure that we continue to have city and county level information because everything is so unique.
Right.
It could be the gas lines. It could be, fire hazard. I mean, we're sitting in a pretty hot area, but it's it's important for us to have those specific elements in there.
And is California the only state that you're aware of that has the requirement for natural hazard disclosures?
We're getting some interest. We want to hear Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon push through.
I would think Washington
State.
Yeah. That's where the big one's going to be.
I love those states. I think that it would be in everybody's interest to have as much information as possible if you're in an area where enough natural events.
Well, I wonder when it's going to be that, those states having recreational marijuana approved, maybe that being in the disclosure going, your neighbor has somewhat of a farm growing in the back.
That may not make it into an NHD,
that's not natural.
But it certainly will be on the local next door posting. We do have the right to farm as a disclosure, and so when you're thinking, boy, what is that smell a month after you moved in? It's because you didn't read the report that there was a dairy farm down the street.
Well, Britt, it was great having you in. Disclosures.com is where they can find you, and I just want to make sure that before we run out of time, people come to the Heritage Sotheby's 10-year Sotheby's anniversary and the 70-year being in business anniversary. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for joining the Lee and Desi Show.
See you next Monday.